Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the saucy 1969 crime drama and unintentional comedy, The Babysitter. And in The Babysitter, we meet George Maxwell, a middle-aged public prosecutor with a wife and two children, one in college and one, an unexpected late arrival, still just a baby. George's professional life is a roaring success. He's won far more cases than he's lost, and he's about to prosecute the case that could be his key to higher public office, a murder charge against members of a neo-Nazi motorcycle gang. But while George's career is going well, his private life is somewhat in the dumps. Since the wild night that gave him and his wife their unplanned and very belated second child, his marriage has descended into a loveless and distant round of tedious bridge parties and dinners with people he doesn't really like. But the presence of this baby brings nubile babysitter Candy Wilson into George's life. The highly attractive and sexually confident Candy makes no secret of the fact that she'd like to show George the affection that his wife will not. Now, George initially stays strong and declines the offer, but he's obviously tempted. Will he manage to maintain his morals, or will he succumb to the babysitter's temptations? Though George doesn't know it yet, the answer to that question may be as vital to his professional life as to his personal one. Because what he doesn't know is that the motorcycle gang are actively looking for blackmail material they can use to force him to throw the trial. And an affair with a much younger woman may be just the ammunition they need. So you might expect from that synopsis that Candy is an active accomplice to the motorcycles gang's blackmail schemes, but in what I can only describe as flagrant middle-aged male wish fulfillment, her interest in the much older George is apparently entirely sincere. It's just very narratively convenient for the gang, of course. And narrative convenience and contrivance, and for that matter, middle-aged male wish fulfillment, are definitely things you should get used to if you plan to watch this cheaply made bit of 60s grindhouse. There's going to be a lot of it packed into the film's brief runtime of some 75 minutes. So what else can you expect in that runtime? Well, more nudity and sexuality than you might expect, for one thing. Certainly more than I expected. When I sat down to watch The Babysitter, it was part of a DVD pack of 50 films, and my expectation, based off the premise and the fact that it was a black and white film from 1969, would be it was one of those films that sold itself on salacious content that it didn't really have. As it turns out, I was well off target. This film enthusiastically embraces salacious content. In fact, it's pretty much the first black and white sexploitation film that I can remember ever seeing. You've got new dancers, multiple sex scenes, one of them a lesbian encounter, which was clearly staged by someone with little concept of what two women might actually do to please one another. And I cannot recall a female character under the age of 40 who doesn't end up at least topless at some point. Now, I'm largely ambivalent about all this skin myself. I'm well past the age where there are bare bosoms in it is a factor in my interest in a movie. But there will certainly be people for whom it is a factor, either positive or negative, and it's definitely a major part of the film's content and its attended kind of, value proposition. So I think it merits mentioning. One thing that I do think is a definite negative is the film's lack of sympathetic characters. George's wife, Edith, is depicted as a nagging harpy who forces him to go to tedious bridge parties with odious people and who withholds sex as a way to manipulate him into doing what she wants. George, meanwhile, makes little effort to actually engage with his wife and understand why she's acting this way, presumably because the filmmakers just want the audience to see her as a bad wife and thus excuse George's adultery. It doesn't, of course. It takes two people to make a marriage and a relationship, and George kind of fails to engage just as much as Edith did. Even characters that I would generally be predisposed to sympathise with, such as George's college-age daughter Joan, are not made likeable. Joan is a lesbian, and the motorcycle gang initially planned to exploit this fact as their blackmail material. Being homosexual was, after all, still widely illegal at this time in the United States. A character who is being targeted for their race, gender identity, or sexuality is generally someone I'm immediately going to cheer for and support. But this movie clearly only included Joan as a character so it could have a lesbian sex scene, and she barely features outside of that sequence, and we really don't have anything to hook onto to like about her. On the plus side, meanwhile, at least for me, is that the film's sleazy, fast-paced script is so broadly written and so blithely contrived that it quickly strays into what I believe is unintentional comedy rather than intentional comedy. Take Candy Wilson, for instance, who's such an over-the-top depiction of free love 60s hippie that the script warps right past parody every time she says or does anything. I mean, one of her first actions while supposedly babysitting is to invite a whole bunch of friends over for a basement party with live music and topless go-go dancers. Her sexual advances towards George follow the same turn it all up to 11 pattern. And then there's her name. I mean, her name is Candy. You know, it's not subtle, this film. And the whole film is turned up to 11, which is where much of the comedic effect comes from. This is not a script with any sense of restraint. Every character is exaggerated and super convenient plot contrivances are everywhere. Now, perhaps I'm being unfair. I guess there's a chance that all of this excess is intended as humour, but if so, the film does an amazing job of keeping a straight face about it. So at the end of the day, this is not a good film, and it lacks anyone to like, but it's short and breezy, and I honestly never got bored while watching it. There are plenty of movies where I can't say I never got bored, and that makes them inferior to The Babysitter in my eyes, despite this film's many negative qualities. Next time, one such inferior film in the 2009 offering, And After Dusk They Come, which was so bad the production company remade the whole film only 1 year later. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've seen today's movie, wow. But yeah, let me know what you thought of it.